Hello.
She's taken over the whole thing.
I don't know which way to move.
Scooch over.
Welcome to Friday with Friends. Thank you all.
I added that little boop, boop, boop.
That's next level. We're going places with this. Anyway, thank you for tuning in today on Friday with Friends. I am Mandy and this is Abby and we're with the Friend team. And our Friday with Friends is an opportunity for our past clients, our future clients, to talk about what's happening in the market right now, to talk about the conversations that are going on so that we can provide value so that when you do need help, we can be your realtor of choice. Hashtag live, if you're watching this live, please sure to say hi when you pop on so we can give you some comments and love back. We'll try to stay as focused as we can, but normally we get distracted and that's kind of fun too. Hashtag live if you're watching this live. Hashtag replay if you're watching this later to make sure that we don't miss any comments or anything like that.
Perfect.
So what are we talking about today?
Can we first talk about the sunshine?
Guys, there's sun.
There's sun.
My 7-month-old.
I could cry. I could right now. There's a tear.
My 7-month-old, I'm like, this is sun, honey.
That's so sad.
I know you've never seen it, but this is sun.
It's the world we live in, but it's supposed to be beautiful. So
cheers to an awesome weekend.
Here we go. Awesome. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about the questions to ask and how to choose the right agent.
Yes, and especially in this market, you've got to be quick. There's so much going on, and we're talking to a lot of people that maybe, that are having a hard time deciding what to do and what's right, and can they talk to agents? How do you find the right one? They want to get into the process but are feeling overwhelmed. So what we wanted to talk about is some of the steps so that you can really feel confident as you're making your decisions and going through the process. So you have an agent that's working the same way that you want to be working. Yeah. And some of the things that you may not have thought about that are going to be important, so you can kind of ask those questions, get those answers in advance so you feel like you're in a great spot and you're setting yourself up for success and an enjoyable, smooth transaction that at the end of the day you're going to be happy with.
Yeah, and I think one thing that we always talk about is it's never too early to start the process.
Yes.
It's never too early to call an agent, get them in. The first thing that we're really going to talk about is how important it is to sit in front of an agent and actually talk to someone before saying, hey, I want to look at this house, which is awesome. That's our job, is getting people into houses and looking at those. But it's always a good idea to chat with friends, family, coworkers, whoever you trust. See who they like and sit down with them and really answer these questions versus just maybe driving by a sign and giving that agent a call. Really feel like you are connected with them and understand what's going on.
Yeah, and it's so easy, right? To be like, I just want to get into the house.
Yeah.
But then sometimes you start a relationship that you haven't sat down. And what we joke about too is sometimes our friends that are like our best friends, they're like, hey, I want to see a house. And we're like, we still want to sit down and we want to take this to be, a serious conversation, because if we're not having this conversation up front, it can lead to some trouble down the road. So even if you feel like I don't want to meet, I'm strongly encouraging you, have a listing consult if you're a seller, have a buyer's consult if you're a buyer, and these are the conversations that we'll talk about.
Yeah, grab a cup of coffee, even if it's just 15, 20 minutes. That's when you can really feel comfortable with your agent and have these questions answered that we'll get to.
I always say you want to sit and have a cup of coffee, but I don't like coffee.
She doesn't like coffee.
So I'm like, do you want to sit and have some water? Then it's awkward. So I'm like,
she's so weird. She doesn't like coffee.
I know. So then I'm like, okay, let's have some coffee. And they're like, you want a coffee? I'm like, no, water's good.
It's like a nice glass of water. That's what we have in here. Don't let it fool you.
No, it's just water. All right, so let's talk about it. So what we have is 6 important things to chat about that are going to be kind of the topics of conversation. If you're on here, feel free to add any thoughts or questions that you think are important for any of our viewers, for us to make sure that they know about before they're getting into a relationship with an agent.
Sounds good. Should we start with number 1?
Yeah.
1.
We always love our numbers, and we will love our numbers. It's just how our brain works.
What is your communication style, and does it mesh with mine? Whoa, that's a little jingle. I didn't even know I just did. What is your communication style? So for me, I'm a big texter. I want to make sure that my future agent is also a texter and different things like that. So having that conversation, and what you were mentioning too, is it's a really good insight into that agent's communication style the first time you reach out to them.
Yes.
And so if you reach out to them via text and they maybe wait a few days or something along those lines. You just want to make sure that it's meshing with the kind of communication that you like to have.
So with us, what we always joke is you can get a hold of us any way you possibly can. So sometimes it's Facebook Messenger, sometimes it's texting any of us, sometimes it's an inquiry on our website. If you're seeing that they're getting an email and that person's responding via email and you love that, well, you're getting insight into that. If you're seeing that they're calling and you're loving that too, that's great. This is also your opportunity to look into yourself to say what's important to me and how do I want to be communicated with.
Right. You did that video blog where it's like, what it was the title of it? It was like, give me a call, I won't answer, but I'll text you back.
If you leave me a voicemail, I won't pick up.
Yeah.
And we had one of our clients who literally was like, do not leave me a voicemail. And you know what, that's fine too, but we need to know that so we're not sitting there leaving you important voicemails that you're never going to listen to.
Right. So I think that's really important, and that'll kind of, right the first time you reach out to that agent, you will know right away if their communication style meshes with yours. And so that's just kind of the biggest thing, because especially for our team, communication is number one. We want our clients to feel like they are being kept up to date every single step of the way. And so we want to make sure that our communication style matches with theirs and theirs matches with ours as well. So we're staying on the same page.
And the final piece on communication that we have too is schedules. You need to make sure schedules align. So sometimes we have clients who are nurses who work overnight. So you can't talk to them at certain times of the day when you would expect to be able to, okay, normally, between 5 and 7, you're off work, we can chat then. But sometimes we've got to be able to make sure that we're able to communicate on their timeline. That's
or
really
time
important.
zones.
Or time zones. Yeah, we have a lot of clients that are out of state, and we need to make sure that we're aware of that. So for you to learn what's important to you so that you can make sure that they're servicing your needs in that way. Because the worst is when, well, I expected you to get back to me in 5 minutes. And they're like, well, I didn't know you had that expectation of me.
Yeah, good point. And talk to me about what a dual agent is and how that would affect me as a buyer or a seller, and kind of, the communication that you want to make sure you have up front with your agent about that.
Yeah, so actually, is that in the how will you service me with the team?
Don't give them away our next numbers. We had it up here, but
okay,
we'll talk about it here.
Okay, so one of the important conversations that you need to be having too is how will you service me? So that's the second question. How will you as a buyer, as a seller, you as an agent representing me as a buyer or seller, how are you going to be servicing me? And sometimes people have a full team of support. Sometimes they're their individual agent, but sometimes people go in and they expect, oh, I'm just going to be talking with Larry the entire time, and then they're talking with Larry and Susie and Johnny. So it's important for you to know that and to make sure you know who you're communicating with, because that's so important to know what you're getting into to make sure you're good with that.
Yeah, exactly. And, for us, we have the team approach. And I always joke that we all specialize in one thing that we're awesome at and don't do anything else. So we have our transaction coordinator, Heidi, who is a rock star in the contract to close process. We have Megan, who's our listing coordinator, who's a rock star in that. So we all have those specialties, but we need to make sure that we have those conversations with our clients to say, okay, so we're going to work with Megan in the beginning. I'm going to be here the entire time. Sorry, you can't get rid of me. And then we're going to join Heidi.
Yes.
And we, make sure that we have those conversations up front so our clients understand, this is the team that's going to be working with you. But there's sometimes the single agents like Larry, who's this hypothetical person. Larry is going to be there the entire time. So you just have to see and make sure that style works for you.
And that's what brings us into this important conversation about dual agency. So, oh my gosh, this is like a crazy New York State term. So I'm sure anyone who wants to be on here, I think I've got a couple. Hi, Aunt Tracy. Hi, Derek. Hi, Natalie. Hi, Megan. Hi, Virginia. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Agency means that we are representing you as a buyer's agent, we're representing you as a seller's agent, and so forth. So that means if you're walking into a home, you need to know, is that agent representing the buyer, trying to get you as a buyer the most amount of house for the least amount of money, or is they representing the seller, trying to get them the most amount of money for that home? Because what could happen is you could walk in thinking they're a buyer's agent, and you're like, I'll pay $1 million for this house, and then you're a seller's agent, and they're like, let's negotiate hard. So you need to know. So the conversation and why it's important to understand who's going to be servicing me is also how you're going to handle a situation. Say you have a buyer's agent and that buyer's agent walks into or is interested in showing you a house that they have listed.
Right. So they're also the listing agent.
How would they then handle that relationship? And would they refer you out so that you can make sure that you have representation evenly on both sides? And that's just an important conversation that we have. And before I had a team, I had my standards around that. Now that we have a team, we have our standards around that. Not one that's good or bad. It's just what your comfort style is going to be in situations like that.
Right. Because you want to make sure that as, let's say, you're working with an agent and they have a house listed that you want to see. You want to make sure that you're being, fully represented as a buyer, making sure that you can have an open line of communication. So some agents have the team approach where there's buyer's agents and there's listing agents, and we never have that issue. Everyone's negotiated for 110%. If it is a single agent, you want to understand, well, how does that work? Do I get referred out to another agent, or am I working with you and you have something that works with that? So you just want to make sure that you're asking those questions and you feel comfortable with it.
Agreed. Perfect. And it also kind of gives you a little bit of insight into how they operate and what's great about their team, and then for you to be able to make sure that that's what you want. So
yeah,
good point. Okay, so number 1 was, what is your communication style? Number 2 was, how will you service me? Number 3. You want to do it?
Oh, I was like, what was number 3? Yes, talking about your current numbers, your current pipeline.
How many clients do you work with at a time?
Okay. It's a question. It's like Jeopardy.
How many clients do you work with at a time, or are you working with currently?
Yeah.
Now, why is that such an important question?
Well, it's really important because in this market, we have a lot of, potential buyers in the pipeline of our business, because there's not many houses out there for them to see and to write offers on.
If you want to list your house, could you please call us?
We'd really appreciate it.
Please, we have so many buyers, we need houses.
Good.
Sorry,
point.
Go.
So there's just a lot of, you need to know how many people is my agent working with. If there's, again, the team approach, you might have a lot of agents, but they're being divided up potentially with buyer's agents and things like that. If it's a single agent, they might be working with, a certain amount of buyers as well. So that's just really important to know, how many am I working with, and are they exclusively working with the agent that I would be working with, yes or no?
Yes, and the reason why this is so important is because in a market like this, so let's say that on average we talk to, 3 to 4 buyers every month that we are, okay, we're helping to find them a house. Well, normally what happens is you talk to 3 buyers, you get 3 buyers under contract, and it's kind of an even, and every month it's revolving and you're consistently working with 3 buyers. In a market like this, when it's going to take us, a couple offers and it's harder to find buyers' inventory, what we normally work with could be 3, but it's going to back up, and then there's going to be that surplus of buyers that this buyer or this agent has to service, has the opportunity to service. But the key in this market, it is so important that you can get into right away to these houses. If a property gets listed at 9 a.m., there needs to be enough time for this agent to be able to say, I'm going to get you in at 3 o'clock. So that's an important question. If how many buyers are you working with? How many sellers are you working with? So that when things need to happen quickly, are you able to respond to that?
I think we should give Alyssa a shout out here.
Yeah, so within our team, so we are obviously in that backup of buyers. And if you are a current buyer here, we love you and we're doing everything that we possibly can. But one of the things that our team just brought on is we brought on another agent, Alyssa, who's helping us with this. That is her job is to make sure that when there's a property that gets listed, she's going out and helping these clients get into these homes. Because it's, if it gets listed there, we need to put an offer in that second. And whenever our client's available, we're going to make ourselves available. So it's so important to know that, to know those current numbers that they're working with and how many they work with normally, and just to really make sure that they can service you. Now, if you're looking, a year down the road and you're kind of casual about it, that may not be a necessity for you too. So there's nothing that's right or wrong. It's going to be what's best for you.
Good point. Yeah, perfect. Okay, number 4.
What is your experience? What are your historic numbers? Now, this is really a topic that's close to my heart because I got into the business when I was 22, and I always felt so frustrated because it'd be like, I've been in the business for 30 years versus me who I'm like, listen, I just got in the business, but I've sold a good number of houses. So it's so important to not say, how many years have you been in the business as the end all be all. Yeah. The important conversations you should be having is how many homes have you sold? How many homes have you sold maybe in the last year, to see if they're knowledgeable about the market, because it's very likely that that they could have been in the market for, or you've been selling real estate for a long period of time, but maybe they're not experienced with properties going well above asking, multiple offer situations, how you're handling listing a property and still wanting to have an open house and delayed negotiations, all these crazy things that are happening right now. So it's not just about what's your experience, it's really about what are your historic numbers. What other important numbers would you ask, whether it be a buyer or a seller?
So on the selling side, really important questions to ask. Besides, again, your experience and how many houses you sold last year, are questions like your average days on market, your list to sale price. The list to sale price is my favorite question because that shows how well did you price these homes. Your list price is what you priced the house at, and your sale price is what it ultimately sold for. So you want that to be as close to 100% as possible. Obviously, 100% would be a perfect world, but you really want to be up there because that's showing you listed my house correctly, you priced it right, and then you sold it as close to that as possible. So that's really the important one. And then your average days on market, really reflect that as well. They kind of go hand in hand. So I would say that would be two really important questions as the listing side of things, in addition to the experience and the amount of transactions.
In terms of a buyer side, what I think the important questions would be is what is your sale price to list price? Now, normally we want that to be really low because we want to show what great negotiators we are.
Right, so you're talking about the opposite of what I just talked about. As a listing, I want to be as high as possible to get as much money as possible for my house. But Mandy's talking about negotiating to get a low price as a buyer.
Yes. To show that we're great at negotiating on the buy side.
Good point. Yep.
So that's an important thing. Now, right now, it's not very good.
I was like, what?
Right now, our numbers, because we don't have that power to negotiate. So if you're talking to a buyer's agent and they're like, it's not low, it's really up towards 100, that does not mean they're not a great agent because in this market, if they're getting properties, they're a phenomenal agent. And even phenomenal agents that aren't getting, they're still phenomenal out there. Any agents watching this, I'm sure, can attest to it. But, there's a lot of unique situations that go into it. But that's something in the general market, that's an important question to ask. But for right now, I wouldn't lean too heavy on it because the market's such a seller's market.
Yep. Good point.
And then the other question, if you are a buyer interviewing an agent, to be able to say, how many houses on average do you think I'm going to see? And this isn't a good or a bad, but we like to if you're seeing over, 5 to 7 houses and you haven't had anything that catches your eye to write an offer, that's typically, our amount where we're saying, okay, we may want to revisit your criteria and really understand more of what you're looking for because something might be off. But again, in this market, you could see, 2 houses, love them both, put an offer in and we don't get it too. So it opens up the conversation for how many you should expect to see.
Yeah, good question. And a timeline. 5 to 7 houses gives you an understanding of, okay, what's our timeline looking like? How often are we going to be looking at houses and how quickly are they going to be coming on the market and that we can go check them out?
Yes, for sure. Hi, Krista. Hi, Scott. So let's get any more on the fourth one?
No, I think that covers it.
So the questions that you should be asking when you're interviewing an agent, 1, what is your communication style? 2, how will you service me? 3, how many clients do you work with at a time or are you currently working with? 4, what is your experience and what are your historic numbers? And then 5 is, how are you marketing to help me?
Can I talk about the 3 and 4 P's?
Yes. Okay, this is such a good, it gives a lot of sense, yeah.
It gives a lot of sense.
Gives insight, folks.
There we go. So we, as agents have a joke, I guess, where some agents, when marketing the house, they do the 3 P's. That means they put a sign in the front yard, they put it in the MLS, and they pray. That's one side to marketing. And for some agents, that works well. There's also, we like to add the 4th P, which is prospecting. We're actively out there looking for, if you're a seller, for buyers for your house. Or if you're a buyer, we're prospecting for new properties for you to look at. So that's really the 4th P that's really important. And depending on your situation and what you want in an agent, you want to make sure that they're doing that 4th P.
Yes, exactly. And when you talk about from a seller's perspective, some of this 4th P, what that's going to look like, and for us, it's constantly, how can we get out there more? If we're a buyer right now, some of the things we're looking for are off-market properties. So maybe something that expired in the last 365 days that haven't gotten listed, we're saying, hey, I wonder why they're not selling anymore. Maybe it's the price. Maybe, they may just be someone that we can lovingly stalk and get some get you as a buyer an opportunity to get into a property that's maybe not hot on the market or not in as much competitive situation. Also for sale by owners, we try to see who plopped their sign in a yard that we can get out and get after, on Craigslist and all of those conversations. So that's a way that, it's just a couple ideas for that fourth P that we chat about when we're representing buyers that you can ask to see, is that something you've done? Another thing that just came to mind is we do postcards to specific neighborhoods. Yep. Sometimes we'll have clients who, I just want to be in this neighborhood, and we reach out to them. We do a mailer, we'll do whatever. Sometimes it's a postcard, sometimes it's a handwritten note saying, hey, we've got these buyers that are looking for this many bedrooms, this many baths. If you know of anyone in your neighborhood that's considering selling, please let us know and we can bring our buyer through.
And that's pretty much like every neighborhood right now. So
every single neighborhood we have.
So if anyone wants to, again, sell their house, we're ready to go. So that's really on the buy side. On the listing side, we're doing very similar things to, again, prospect for potential buyers for your house. So we do one thing called circle prospecting. And what that is if we have a house in a specific neighborhood, we're going to be reaching out to all the neighbors, saying, who do you know that wants to move into this neighborhood? A lot of times you want your best friend or your family or your sister to live next door to you. So a lot of times it's your neighbors that know who is looking. So we can reach out to the neighbors either through door knocking, through mailers, as Mandy mentioned, or through phone calls and just say, hey, we have a new property that just came up on the market. Who do you know that wants to move into the neighborhood? So circle prospecting on the listing side is really important, and we want to make sure that your agent is doing something along those lines as well.
Yeah, for sure. And for us, we always talk about like door knocking. We're not door knocking right now. Like it's sometimes like on a Sunday we're like braving the weather, but especially those conversations that's like really helps you just get out there and to just plaster the town, especially if there's an open house coming up, whatever we can be doing to make sure that we're getting buyers in to see it.
Yeah, and there's lots of other things, and you just want to really make sure that you're having that conversation with your agent to say, what are you doing that's going to go above and beyond to sell my house or find me a house? And, obviously our team is really active on social media. So there's lots of different things like that. And you just want to make sure that you're doing that research and having that conversation with your agent. So you know that they're doing everything that they can.
And I think the other piece too is we've had situations, and I don't want this to be kind of a diss, but we've had situations, oh gosh, you know where Mandy's going with this.
Okay.
That we have people who say, well, why didn't you guys do this for me? Another agent promised that you would do this and that, and I've heard those things. It gives us the opportunity to then say, well, this is why we've put our marketing efforts, I'm not even going to say, this is why we put our marketing efforts onto, social media, maybe instead of print, if you would say. So you need to be asking those questions and use this as a conversation piece for you to learn why they do what they do, but then maybe also why they don't do what they do, so that you're not sitting there expecting, well, I'm upset that they didn't do this. It's that opportunity for you to chat about what they do, what they don't do, and why they've chosen that as their, their marketing strategy.
Yep, and that's where, again, just an open line of communication. We say, we're a team, but our clients are also a team with us. So we want to make sure that we're constantly having that communication. And there's some agents that feel one direction of marketing is better than the other, and that's why it's a good idea to have these conversations so you feel comfortable with the decision that your agent is making.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Does that bring a full circle?
It brings a full circle. So we've got our sixth question. So one is the questions that you want to be asking when you're interviewing an agent. 1, what is your communication style? 2, how will you service me? 3, how many clients do you work with at a time, or on average, how many are you servicing currently? What is your experience in terms of your years of experience, but also your historic numbers? And then 5, how are you marketing to help me? The last piece that you should be asking your agent is, do you have any questions for me?
Ooh, did not see that coming.
Because what this is this gives you insight into how they operate. Are they just saying, yes, the questions I have is what price point, what bedrooms and bathrooms, and what locations do you want to be at? That if you're a buyer, for instance. So you're able to say, yes, I want to learn, the nitty gritty. Or are you having an agent that's saying, tell me about the style. What do you want your house to look like? Why is that important to you? Because for us, what we find is when we're asking those deeper questions, we had a conversation with, we've used this example before, but like first-time home buyers were like, I would just kill for a formal dining room. And I'm like, are you gonna have Thanksgiving? Do you entertain? And they're like, no, my mom's up the street. Why would I ever have one? And so I say, okay, well, you're not gonna be using that as a formal dining room. 99% of the year. Let's maximize that space so that we're going to use this as an office, or in terms of price per square foot, you're paying and you see value in every bit of square foot in that 1,500 square foot house instead of wasting an entire room. So it's not just asking the basics, but you can get insight into how they operate as you're saying, what questions do you have for me, to learn how are they thinking? Are they really getting inside of my head, and are they helping me? Because we've seen so many buyers and so many sellers that we can normally do a good gauge and ask you the right questions to make sure that you're making the best decision for yourself and your family.
And that allows us to understand as much information as possible about you. So when we're out in the market and we see a house that's, you know, maybe has one less bedroom than what you requested, but it has that open concept and a finished basement and a play set in the backyard for the kids, we can say, hey, Mandy, I found this house. I know it doesn't have 4 bedrooms. It only has 3, but it has X, Y, and Z. And it could be the perfect house for you. So it allows us to really dig into what's important to you. You know, do you want to wash dishes and look out into the backyard, you know, little things like that, where even the smallest details make a big difference.
Definitely, definitely. So that's just kind of the tie-all, and I think that the biggest thing for you before you ask any of these questions is to maybe ask yourself what you want the answers to be first, so that you can go in with what's important to you, because you may think something's important, you may not think something's important. So there's no such thing as right or wrong in terms of who's a good or who's not a good agent. It's what's going to be right for you. You know, we have clients all over, you know, all the different ends of the spectrum that, you know, we work to service, but at the end of the day, we're not going to be that perfect agent for everyone. And we know that, and that's okay. But we really hope that you are getting a phenomenal experience and finding an agent that's matching up perfectly for you.
Good job.
Was that a good job? I think that's it. All right, awesome. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Friday with Friends. Friday with Friends, as I mentioned in the beginning, is our opportunity to talk about what's happening in the market so that we can discuss and answer all of the questions that you may be having, so that whether you're looking to buy, sell, or invest now or in the future, you can think of us and we can be your realtor of choice. So we like to tune in on Fridays, so maybe I don't think it'll be next Friday, probably the Friday after that. Be sure to tune in for our next Friday with Friends. If you have any questions, or if there's anything that we can be doing for you, you can visit our website at www.friendonyourside.com. Give us a call, send us a message. We would absolutely love to help however we can.
Enjoy the sunshine.
Yay!
Woohoo! Bye, guys.